to kick things off, why don't you introduce yourself and tell me what Growth Terminal is and what it does?
We actually, we're part of the Wonderverse company. So we initially actually started building essentially like DAO productivity tools, basically products to help make DAOs more sort of efficient. And that was back in like 22. And then obviously the meta kind of died a little bit, but we sort of realized that communities and distribution was really important. So we started building different types of products within sort of community and marketing. And then obviously like when we realized that AI was really good or getting to where it was like really good at understanding context. That's when we started looking at Growth Terminal and thinking, okay, everyone is needing to build an audience more and more. It's becoming incredibly important, especially on social media. It doesn't matter what type of company you are. You're either on LinkedIn or you're on Twitter, or obviously, if you're more consumer facing, you're on Instagram or TikTok. But, you need to build that audience to be able to distribute whatever you want to build. That's when we started building Growth Terminal. The first version was actually like a way to actually index your bookmarks and to give you advice based on like your Twitter
Oh,
bookmarks.
nice.
And it still does that. There's still that element, but we just focus it much more on like growing your audience. So like through content creation, through basically our agent helping you source posts to reply to via like monitoring keywords, monitoring communities you're part of, people you're following, and then being able to automate sending DMs to many different people.
You guys have been building around this idea of distribution as leverage. So when you think about distribution in 2025, what does that actually look like in practice?
It usually go to market is like one of two things, right? It's either marketing or sales. So it
Mhm.
obviously depends on what type of company you are. If you
Yeah.
are a consumer company and you're not on TikTok, you know, frankly, what are you doing? And I think obviously if you're anything to do with crypto, like having to nail crypto Twitter, creating, the Telegram community, the Discord communities, that's like what distribution looks like. It's really a lot of like channels, right? Like when I think about marketing, and that's
Yep.
why it's hard to build like an AI marketer because an AI engineer, building databases versus, the different types of languages is kind of all similar. Obviously like all the AI is trained on like coding, but also marketing is so different, right? There's like SEO, there's
Yes.
like influencer marketing, there's paid ads, there's so many different things, content, social media, etc. And so when I think about distribution, it really is about realizing what your best channels are. And those channels change over time, right? Like, I think most startups start off having to have some sort of organic, so like building some audience, and you kind of see it now with like the whole launch video meta. You
Yeah.
get that initial bunch of users from, let's say, a Twitter or a LinkedIn, but then to scale, you realize that, oh, actually, I need to do paid. That I need to do, some sort of paid ads on Meta or some sort of influencer marketing, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, that's kind of what I think distribution means in 2025. It's just like everyone needs to do it. I think before it was a lot more like pure product led growth, but now if
Yes.
you have to think about distribution at the same time as you're building product. You need to think of like where you're distributing, what your channels are, like at the same time as your product. You don't just build the product first.
So when you started Growth Terminal, was it just like you messing around and vibe coding, or like did you actually already have a clear plan?
No, it was definitely exactly what you just said. I was just vibe coding. A lot of what I am trained as an engineer.
Okay.
So I used to work at Meta, but
Mhm.
after we, basically launched the products, I just focused much more on like a sales and marketing role, which is obviously like I was just vibe coding for my own needs, right? I was just like, hey, I have like so many bookmarks on all these different types of marketing knowledge. I just want something that tells me like, hey, if I ask it a question like, oh, how should I tweet about this, or like, what do you think of this growth strategy? It just tells me using the knowledge from those bookmarks. And that was like the initial plan, right? So we just like, I just vibe coded it out. And that was when, basically Cursor was getting like pretty good. and
Okay.
it was just
Yeah.
able to do a lot of the things. And actually, I will also say like we utilize Eliza OS, which is like an open
Okay.
sourced agent framework.
Yeah.
Actually, pretty crypto native, but it's actually you can use it for any purpose. And that was really good for developing our sort of like RAG knowledge base. And so I just vibe coded it together and we launched it, did like a launch video for it. People really liked it, but pretty much every single like person who like used it pretty seriously was like, hey, I'm just using it to try and give me content ideas. Can you make it just like make content for me? And that's when we started sort of this new iteration, which was like helping with content creation. And then once we got to content creation, we realized like, oh, okay, accounts need to reply all the time. Like people need to reply.
Yes.
People need to make like 50 replies a week to actually like get that engagement. And the thing is, if you make a good reply and people like it, they're also more likely to see your post. So it's all like feeding into the algorithm. And then now it's like, obviously, you want to be able to reach a bunch of people. A lot of founders who have found success actually initially just like DM'd thousands of people, right, with like, hey, this is our offer. And so that's again where we're moving to. But a lot of it is just like starting from vibe code and then understanding what
Love
users
that.
want. Yeah.
And you said cursor, right? So like what stack did you use to get the first version off the ground? You know how a lot of people use Lovable or Base 44?
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't use Lovable just as an engineer. I guess I could have used Lovable to like prototype it. And actually, I think
Right.
I worked with like my co-founder who designed it, and I think he actually used Lovable to like prototype it, or use Figma to
Okay.
design. I think he used Figma to design the files, and then I basically just used Cursor at the time. It's so funny, the models changed so much. I think at the time, Gemini 2.5 Pro was the best model for coding. So
Yeah.
I used that to get me off the ground. And a lot of it was just like, I think for me, engineering has changed a lot more into product and like really testing like UX flows and like testing, how the product works. And then rather than obviously there's still some like architectural thinking, like being able to use Eliza, knowing to use a RAG, things like that. That's still really knowledgeable, as so if you're trained as an engineer, I think your skills are just like way more enhanced. But it
Yeah.
was really interesting because it was the first time where I was like, wow, I can just do this like in 2 weeks, which was
Yeah.
insane to me. So yeah, we've just kind of like continued on doing that. And so yeah, Vercel is what we use on the front end. It's like full
Gotcha.
stack JS, TypeScript, sorry.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You started as a builder, actually. You're a builder first. So a lot of people transition from like growth to building,
Yeah.
but it sounds like you transitioned from building to growth, right?
Yeah.
So you actually have that knowledge to be able to audit and keep things secure, which is, I feel like, something that a lot of people just don't.
It's being able to build like a production grade app. And I think this is where, being trained an engineer is useful because even if you're like, I guess if you're like a pure front end dev, but if you're like a full stack eng, like I had less knowledge about infra. Like I've done Kubernetes and things like that. But I think what AI really taught me is also like, hey, I can just ask things in Cursor. And
You can
initially,
just ask
I was
things.
just breaking prod like all the time, and I was like, oh my god, this is not good. I like this whole pod just went down, and I'm just like, I have no idea why. But once you get over those hurdles, and you're like, okay, I know how everything works now.
Mm.
I think yeah, it's just a superpower to be honest, and the feeling of being able to build anything is pretty powerful.
Is there something you don't like about Cursor right now?
Me developing on localhost, like I feel like Cursor needs to know what's
Hmm.
happening, right? Like it's crazy
Yeah.
for me to have to ask it to just log everything, and then copy and paste logs. I think that's like the biggest UX disconnect. It would be awesome, obviously, if like Cursor's able just to like watch my screen or something. which I guess is like
Yeah.
the cluification of everything. But yeah,
Yeah.
like, but
Right.
honestly, I wish Cursor would be able to do that, and then just be like,
Hmm.
okay, this is what's bugging. It's not working.
Right.
Because, obviously I'm just taking like 10 screenshots, and most of the time I don't even know
Same.
if it's
Yeah.
actually reading it properly, right? But yeah.
So bringing it back to Growth Terminal, I read on the website, you describe that as like a 200 IQ ghostwriter. So how do you think about AI's role here, right? Like, is it more of a co-pilot for humans, or is it heading toward like replacing?
I don't think it, especially for writing, in my opinion, it wouldn't be replacing. It just does, at least for me, how I use it. The first 80%, I would say, like the ideation, like looking at the right topics, finding me the right post to sort of reference, that is all done with AI. And obviously, like I could also do it, but I would have to just stay on Twitter for like ages to be able to,
Forever. Right.
yeah, like, and then I do have other things to do, unfortunately. I do already spend a lot of time on social, so I would need to
Yeah.
sink my whole day into it, but it does 80% of the time, and then my last 20 I'm just kind of like editing. So I'm just basically like just making sure everything looks good, adding some like of my own quirks in my writing. GrowthTerminal is already pretty good at doing things like, okay, making sure that all my posts are lower caps. It knows that I already post with lower caps. But I will still need to edit like the last 20% to make it sound like really good, or just like, quote unquote human.
So it's like a cursor for Twitter.
It's like a
For Twitter
cursor for
generate,
Twitter. That is exactly what we're
you know?
trying to build. And funny enough, a lot of what we're working on next is like, is that debug loop, that feedback loop is like really important,
Mm,
right? So like what we talked about, like cursor needs to
yes.
read our screen. And I think what I need to we're moving towards like Grow Terminal being able to read like all your tweets that you've done and really fine tune analyze like what's working and what's not, what are the best formats, things like.
Something that I wish like I could do in a specific platform, and it might be Growth Terminal,
Would love.
but being able to study like people's profiles, and seeing, first of all, their engagement, their analytics, but also what posts like hit the best. Because if you take everyone's profiles, you see a pattern of what performs like the best on Twitter.
Yeah, that
So
actually is alpha, because a lot of what we're working on next is being able to analyze other people's engagement.
interesting. Maybe I need to cancel my Typefully
When
subscription.
we
Let me
have
just
that out, I'll definitely would love to have you try it for like just like for a month and then see
For
what you
sure.
think.
I mean, like that would change my life, seriously. Because I use Typefully now to schedule tweets.
Right.
And the way that I use Typefully is like I'm constantly testing different times. Like, people think like I'm online like 24/7, like I'm at 3 a.m. tweeting. I'm not
I
I'm
do
sleep.
see your tweets at 3, and I'm like, is she in like Asia right now? Like I'm like, are you in the conferences? Like, how are you doing this?
Sometimes I stay up if I want to, I guess, like, or like if I had too many Celsius, like I stay
Oh,
up. But
that's the best caffeine. That's the best caffeine.
right.
Yeah, if I need to do that.
Exactly. But most of my tweets are scheduled, like 80% of them. And then the way that I spend my time is I reply to those comments, or I just spend like 90% of my time on my For You page or my timeline
Yeah.
to engage with people, so that when it does drop, like those people check out my account.
Do you find that when you tweet at 3 a.m., like, are you trying to hit like the Asia market? Because obviously, I don't know,
Yes.
are you like, I see the LA hat and I actually,
No, I'm not even close to
oh,
LA.
really? I
I'm
live in
actually
LA, so I'm
not yet.
like, okay.
No, Florida.
Oh, really?
And our CEO and founder, he's based in LA. So, I mean, are you also like in crypto Twitter circle? I'm guessing you are, if you
We
were one of the
started off,
first.
yeah, we definitely
Okay.
started off in crypto, and it is a really nice place for posting, to be frank, just because like, if everyone knows each other, they kind of just like just
Yeah.
based on support. But I think, the space is also moving outside of that, like more and more people like with Polymarket and things like that. Obviously, Nikita Beer is like a advisor to Solana. Like, it is breaking
Right.
out, I think. as well.
What do you think about crypto and AI?
Crypto and AI, we had the whole bull run for obviously like ELISA and virtuals, which is kind of like the
Right.
premature tokenization and hype circle. Chatted with a couple of teams. They're doing really cool stuff around like, what it means to be able to tokenize agents and for people to make revenue. I think even the agent space itself is like pretty early. Really the
Yeah,
only
I
agents
agree.
like just without crypto, right? Like, so the agent space,
Right.
I think Manus is really good. Having tried it, that's really like the only one that I've been like, wow, this is like impressive. And so, and maybe AI XBT, I guess that was really good as well. That was
Yeah.
genuinely like really
Hmm.
cool. But I think there's so much opportunity to build in this space, and like any space, in my opinion, that isn't like completely hyped right now is like a good place to build, because like anything that's already hyped is like the alpha is
Or
already
yeah.
gone, right? So I think the crypto
Right.
AI space is like AI is going to stay, crypto is going to stay, and so being able to combine the two
It just makes
just makes
sense.
sense.
But last question, really, like looking back at your journey, where you started with the DAO, Wonderverse, and now here with Growth Terminal, what's one thing that you wish you knew before starting?
Oh, definitely. Distribution is as important, if not more important than product. I think I wrote a tweet which was like, attention is everything, but like to succeed, you do need retention. But I think,
Yeah.
too many people focus on just like building a product in a silo and just being like, oh, okay, we need to improve and get this feature out, and like we need to add more features. And I think part of distribution is actually just getting a product out there and talking about it. It's called product market fit for a reason, right? It's very
Right.
important to talk about what you do. Like these things compound, and it grows exponentially. And I wish back then, I personally wish I started tweeting a lot more than I did. I really only started like in the last few months, and I went from like having 3,000 monthly impressions to like now I average over 100K every month. Night and day difference, right? So
Yeah.
I would encourage everyone who's building something to start talking about what they do, because I think that is also the best content as well, is when you talk about building something. And especially if you talk about it on Twitter, you never know who's going to see it.
Right.
Actually, I owe a lot to Twitter. Our first investment check was actually from me talking about quitting my job at Meta after going to a crypto conference, and that went viral.
Nice.
So I think, yeah, that just the sooner you start talking about what you do and talking about you, the better. Even if you don't have a product, just talk about something that
Mm.
you're passionate about, right? Or that you want to build in. Talk about your story, and you can do it in different ways, right? Just ways that match your personality. Some people are just like really good at shitposting. That works. Just finding your group, right? Finding your niche. I think, as I mentioned with Nikita changing the algorithm, is like finding your niche of like which part of Twitter you're a part of, and then just posting consistently in there and engaging with other people through like replies and things like that.
Yeah. Anyways, it was really great meeting you. I think a lot of people are going to find some great insights in here. And I'm excited to see where you guys go with Growth Terminal. I think you guys have a really great product, and it's something that people like me would use. And there's a lot of people like me in the space. So,
Amazing. Thank you so
you
much.
know,
And yeah, we just want to make the most useful product for marketers and growth people, because oftentimes they're just under their resources aren't very rich, and but their impact is so big, right? Like, and so that's where we want to help.